Hello and welcome to this new Construct 3 demonstration on how to implement gun recoil. So in this little demonstration you can see there is a little object with the platform behavior and it's got a gun pointing towards the mouse cursor. That's not really the essence of the game here, or not the essence of the demonstration rather. What I'm going to demonstrate is this. So whenever I'm shooting the gun, there's a gun recoil going on. You can see that. How exactly does it work? Let's see. Well, this is the event sheet. Let's first go to the layout to explain one little thing. So this is the player here, and the player has got an image point right here to denote where the gun is supposed to be. And the gun is a separate sprite. This one here, nothing very special except for one instance variable called recoil, and that's the one which was very important for this implementation of gun recoil. So let's switch to the event sheet here. So all of these things above here, the template events, those are all the events that just implement the platforming behavior. Nothing special about that. It's this stuff here at the bottom that actually implements the recoil. You gotta bear with me. The recoil instance variable is very important here, because actually what happens, you can see the event here on every tick. So this thing here, these actions happen on every tick. So the first thing that happens here is the gun setting the angle towards the mouse X and Y position. Okay, so that's what we saw. Whenever we move the mouse, the angle of the gun changes to face the mouse. That's it. And then what happens is actually there's three things going on here. First, the gun is set to a position, being the image point gun which I showed you earlier, and then it is moved to an angle plus 180 degrees. So that means it moves so many pixels at the opposite angle of what I'm pointing at. So self.angle is the angle of the gun, of course, and it is moving the gun in the opposite direction. So angle plus 180, of course, is the opposite direction. But how many pixels it is moving is this instance variable, self.recoil, which means that every time self.recoil changes, it will move back this amount of pixels. So we set a position to a certain position and we move back. And then what we do is we set the recoil. Again, we set the recoil to itself, but we use the linear extrapolation function to go from itself to 0. And the step amount is delta time times 6. So delta time is used to make this frame rate independent, and to make the recoil a bit faster, we multiply this by 6. So it's going from that value, whatever it is, to 0 in very small steps. As it's setting the recoil instance variable constantly to a value starting from the recoil instance variable going to 0, what happens is whenever the recoil value is set to a number which is higher than 0, it goes from that value to 0 every single time here, every tick. So suppose we're setting it to 100, we're going to set the recoil to 100 and it's going back 100, and then we linearly extrapolate to 0, going 99, and it's moving back 99 pixels. 98, moving back 98 pixels. 97, moving back 97. So it's actually constantly moving back and forward, but the amount of movement back and forward constantly diminishes. You see? Now, how do we get that recoil value higher? Because in essence, that's what needs to happen. We need to get it higher. Well, actually, that's done on left mouse button, of course. And on left mouse button, we just set the recoil instance variable, which is used here, to itself plus 10. And then we use the clamp function. The clamp function just tells us it needs to be at minimum that and at maximum that. So every 0.1 seconds, this is adding 10 until it reaches 30. That's what it does. So that's what happens. So we set it to 10, 20, 30, and every tick, this is undone, linearly extrapolated. So we set it to 10. Every tick tries to move it back to 0 every time by setting it back to 0 and then moving it the recoil amount backwards constantly. So in order to demonstrate that a bit clearer, I've changed the text here on top of the output to see what happens. You can see the text is now set to 0 because it's displaying the current gun recoil. I will click once and you will see what happens. It slowly goes up to like 20, 30, and it goes back to 0. But as we keep on moving, as we keep on clicking rather, this keeps on happening every 0.1 seconds. So it's actually constantly sending it back and trying to get it back to 0 in loops on every tick. That's what it does. So let's do something like, for example, comment this one out to see what happens. Right now, what will happen is he will come back. The gun will come back, but will never return. There we have it, because it's not trying to move to its direction, because the recoil is not being reset to 0, of course. So what happens, it's constantly setting it to 0 and moving it back, and constantly at 0 and moving it back, and that happens so fast on every tick that you don't actually see that it's coming back and moving forward. So you only see it because the last statement just moves it back a little bit more, a little bit less every time. That's what happens. So that's it. I hope you liked this video. As always, please like and subscribe, and I will leave a link in the description of the video where you can get the free template for this game. Thank you for watching.